Hello there and welcome once again to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're here each week talking to intriguing guests about topical issues, and we've got something coming up right here in Central Oklahoma.
Yes, the governor and the Oklahoma Commission on the Status of Women are sponsoring a program at the state capitol next week called the Oklahoma Women's Summit, and the theme for that is Women Change Oklahoma. I think you and I would certainly agree with that.
Absolutely.
Women change a lot of things, particularly in our households. I know that to be true in mine. And we're going to have some fascinating guests talking about what's going to go on at the Capitol. They're going to be discussing issues relating to women, in part dealing with health, aging, incarceration of women, women in the workplace, women in the executive key decisions, women running for political races and the like. We think it's a fascinating program. Going to have a huge turnout, and our two guests are going to tell us about what that program is going to be like.
Some intriguing topics coming up on this week's edition of The Verdict. Stay with us.
At Chesapeake Energy, here's a few of our favorite Hornets. Alexis likes reading. Sam enjoys history. Alec loves math. Chesapeake is proud to support both the Oklahoma City NBA Hornets and the Young Hornets at Horace Mann Elementary, where over 150 Chesapeake employees mentor to children each week. The students gain a lot from the experience, but not as much as we do. Chesapeake Energy, committed to building a better Oklahoma.
Gymnastics, one of the most exciting Olympic sports. Hi, I'm Olympian Bart Connor. Join me as we welcome to Oklahoma City 450 of the top gymnasts in the U.S. seeking Junior Olympic National Championship titles. It's the 2006 USA Gymnastics Junior Olympic National Championships, April 29th and 30th at the Cox Convention Center. There will be 4 exciting sessions of competition, and all weekend tickets are available. Call the Cox Arena or Ticketmaster for tickets today, and we'll see you there.
Oh, hi. I know you guys said I'd save with Cox Digital Telephone. Well, my bill came and... Could this be right?
You may be surprised how much you save with Cox Digital Telephone. That's why over 1.5 million people have switched.
So this really is a total. Lovely. Because I think I found a good use for the savings.
With Cox, there's no waiting for the other shoe to drop. The only surprise is there's no surprise at all.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. Kent's going to introduce today's guests.
We are pleased today to have two guests that are going to talk to us about the Summit on Women's Issues to take place next week. Across the table is Patty Presley. Patty is the court clerk of Oklahoma County. She did her undergraduate work at Southern Nazarene University and obtained her master's from the University of Oklahoma. She's the first woman to hold the office of Oklahoma County Court Clerk. She is a gubernatorial appointee to the Commission on the Status of Women here in Oklahoma and is on the board of directors of the National Board of Commissions on Women. Her first visit to The Verdict, and I want to point out also that Patty is a candidate for the 5th District congressional race here in Oklahoma. Welcome to The Verdict.
Thank you, Kent. It's good to be here. In fact, it's really exciting to be here this morning, always to talk about the Oklahoma Commission on the Status of Women. And every 2 years, biannually, we have events, and this year it is the Summit. And the Summit this year, like it was 2 years ago, is being sponsored by the governor, our governor of Oklahoma, and we're anticipating that come next Friday, women are going to take over the Capitol, and that's always exciting. Every other year, I mentioned biannual, we have the Oklahoma Women's Hall of Fame, where the Oklahoma Commission on the Status of Women does in fact identify between 5 and 8 women who are notable, who have helped to change and to posture women in public office, and also to make sure that women's issues are dealt with the state legislature, that health issues, leadership issues, family issues, children issues, and so on. And so this year, as I mentioned, it's the summit, and we're really excited. 2 years ago, there were about 500 women at the state capitol, and this year we're expecting more than that even.
Well, I want to thank you for coming. We hope you'll come back again. On my left is Lou Kohlman. Lou is the co-chairperson of the summit. She is a fourth-generation Oklahoman and still lives on the land, as I understand it, that was claimed by your great-grandfather in the land run of 1889.
In Oklahoma City.
In Oklahoma City. Well,
There can't be very many examples of that. Do you know
I don't
of any
think
others?
so. No, but I haven't looked real hard.
Okay.
My cousin is another.
Okay.
Lives in the same place.
That's a fascinating story. It has nothing to do with our show today. I just thought I had to interject that.
Well, that
That's
may be
really
another show.
interesting.
Lou did her undergraduate work at Rice University. She obtained her law degree from Harvard Law School. She has been a staff attorney for the Oklahoma Court of Criminal Appeals since 1994. And she is, as I indicated, a co-chairman of the Summit on the Status of Women that's going to take place next week. Thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be here.
We're glad to have you.
Patricia, we know a little bit now about the event coming up next week. Other than this event, what does this organization do?
This organization was designed back by state statute, actually, back in 1994 with then Governor David Walters, to pretty much look at issues pertaining to women, make sure that there's no gender bias with the laws that are being written, to make sure that women's health issues are addressed. We have a mission statement with the Oklahoma Commission on the Status of Women. And that mission statement is to improve the status of women and children and families throughout the state of Oklahoma. And so we're there to make sure that things run the way that they're supposed to with respect to how laws are written. And then there are a lot of old laws that make reference to him or as opposed to her and so on. And that might not seem really important, but at the end of the day, it really is important to the commission.
How is the commission formed? Are they all appointive positions?
All appointed positions.
And who, I know the governor appoints.
The governor does appoint 10 of the 30 commissioners who sit on the Commission on the Status of Women. The Secretary Pro Tem and then the Speaker of the House are the other two appointing authorities.
And how long is your term?
They're 5-year terms, and I've been on the commission now for going on 10 years. I was originally appointed by then Governor David Walters and then Governor Frank Keating, and then my term expires in June, and I'm anticipating, I hope, to be reappointed because it's a wonderful commission and I want to be a big part of it.
Lou, how'd you get involved?
I got involved originally with the Advisory Council. The commission has a group of women who are interested in the mission, interested in furthering the mission and working with the commissioners to help them achieve that. And I have been working with the Advisory Council for maybe 3-4 years. I'm frankly not entirely certain at this point. I ended up co-chairing the last summit. Traditionally, the commission asks the Advisory Council to do the basic work of putting together the summit itself. That's an Advisory Council project with help from commissioners and the blessing of the commission. And I co-chaired that in '04 and then was asked to do the same. My other co-chair, Fern Bowling, is an equity specialist at the Career Tech division in Stillwater. And the two of us did this last time. We're asked to do it again. Just recently, about 2 weeks ago, the Pro Tem actually appointed me to the commission. So
you wear two hats here.
So at the moment, I'm wearing the co-chair hat, which is my real hat today, but I also am on the commission, which, you know, technically should mean I shouldn't co-chair the next round.
Well, we won't tell anybody.
Patricia, you've been on this committee for a long time. Have the issues evolved? Are the issues that you were addressing back in 1995 the same issues you were addressing in 2005 and 2006? Or has there been a shift through the years?
You know, I have to say, Mick, they're pretty much the same issues. The Commission has determined to focus on certain issues today that we weren't necessarily focusing on in 1995 because we weren't entirely aware of the issue. And I will bring to mind incarceration, the incarceration of women. We learned through studies that the Commission helped to sponsor that Oklahoma does in fact incarcerate more women than any other state in the nation.
And we did a show on that once.
We did.
We've done 259 shows, but sometimes something plants in my head. I know we did a show on that very subject. Any solutions or any response to that? Did you come up with a reason why we have incarcerated more women?
We did. We came up with a number of reasons, and there's not any one answer to that. There's not any one reason. What we did determine, however, is that alternative sentencing does help. And what that translates to is drug court and mental health court. So instead of sending not just women but men as well directly to a penal institution because of a crime that they may have committed as a result of their being addicted to drugs or alcohol, what we do is we address, what we're doing as a state is addressing the addiction problem. And by doing that, we're allowing these individuals to perhaps be electronically monitored, and they stay in their home so that they're still able to furnish an income for their families. And in the event it's a woman, as I mentioned, we're particularly interested in the number of women that we incarcerate, the women can stay at home with their children so that their children don't have to be wards of the court and then thereby go into some kind of a state program, which ultimately cost all of us as taxpayers. But the bottom line is that the children and the mothers get to stay together. And so again, we address, and it just makes sense that we would address the problem of addiction first. And the success rate is wonderful. And the state legislature recognizes that. And so every year they've been giving more money, appropriating more money for these alternative sentencing programs.
Let me jump in here and get us to our first break. We're discussing the Women's Summit, which is coming up in Central Oklahoma next week. We'll be right back with more questions for our guests.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information. RSM McGladrey. We're accountants. We do taxes, business valuations, estate planning, and consulting. And we're right here in Oklahoma working with the owners of small and medium-sized businesses. Steve Wilsey and Stuart Meyer have the resources and the experience. RSM McGladrey. In Oklahoma City, the phone number is 405-843-5311.
As someone who works in Oklahoma's oil and natural gas industry, I know how hard we're working to meet our current energy needs. But there are a few things all of us can do to reduce the amount of energy we use, starting right around the house, like installing a $20 programmable thermostat and turning it down, because each degree above 68 can increase a bill by as much as 3%. It's amazing how putting a little effort in can keep a lot of energy from getting out. For more energy-saving ideas, visit oerb.com.
Hi, honey. You've got to check this out.
What? What are we listening to?
I had digital phone service installed today.
It sounds just like before.
I know, but it's going to save us a ton of money.
With Cox Digital Telephone, you'll save big every month. Keep your same phone number and get your favorite calling features. Just pay less.
That does sound good.
You should hear the upstairs phone.
I don't see anything wrong in the education community suing the state.
What is good for the state in the future? Do we give tax breaks now?
The Democrats never asked that question for 60 years.
I don't want to use the word civil, but sometimes there's a little more methodical debate that takes place.
It's more than just talk when you go inside the issues with Pat Hall and Jim Dunlap. Produced by Cox Communications exclusively for the Cox Channel.
Welcome back to The Verdict. We're discussing the Women's Summit, which is coming up in Central Oklahoma next week.
Yes, I want to go back to the commission just for a minute, Lou. Tell our viewers who are the commissioners and where do they live?
Well, amongst the 30 commissioners, there is one man, 29 women. The man is Dr. Bob Darcy. He is a professor of sociology, I believe, in Stillwater. And he's a very fancy professor. I don't know all Bob's titles, and I know he will forgive me for that. We have, among the women on the commission, we have a state senator, we have state legislators, we have a county court clerk, we have a few attorneys, we have community volunteers, we have women in the private sector, we have women in education. It really runs the gamut. We have women who stayed at home with their kids and did what they could on the side and worked in the community, and we have women who have had professional careers or political careers from the beginning, or people who have picked those up as they have had the time. It's a truly representative slice. We have racial diversity, we have ethnic diversity, we have geographical diversity. They come from everywhere. One of our commissioners is from Foss, one is from Tulsa. I mean, do you know many people from Foss?
Well, I know more people from Tulsa. Who's going to attend the summit next week? Who do you
We
expect to
hope that everybody will attend the summit next week. Specifically, what we have done is we have our registration fee is $15, which essentially covers the cost of the lunch. It makes it possible for people who don't have a lot of money to spend on conferences to come and spend the day at the Capitol. We have, at the last summit, we had a lot of state employees, we had a lot of people from the metro area, women in private practice, women in business. I've talked to several women who are just out there in the community that have heard about this through their church groups or through their women's groups, or perhaps saw some publicity about it, who have registered already or intend to do so. We got busloads of people from Lawton, from other places in the state, people traveling in from not only the metro areas but rural Oklahoma. We had a significant tribal presence last time, which we hope to make even more significant this time around. And we have a lot of women students, particularly from some of the outlying colleges, the smaller colleges. This is a chance for women, particularly who might not otherwise come to the state capitol, might not otherwise get to hear some of the truly outstanding speakers we have, to talk about these issues, things that are really interesting to them, and just to see what's out there.
Well, when they get there, what are they going to hear? What are the major topics that are going to be discussed? It's a day-long program?
It's a day-long program. The registration starts at 8 and the program itself begins at 9, and we'll wrap it up by 4:30. Because it is a long day. But we give you lunch in the middle, and there's opportunities for networking, there's breaks along the way. What we do is, the commission itself has 3 main areas of interest in terms of committees and topics that the commission itself tracks, and those are women's health. Patricia's named some of them. They're women's health, women incarcerated, which is of course of great interest to the commission, and then women in leadership. So what we've done is we've organized the summit around those 3 topics. We'll have 3 sessions each, small breakout sessions, so you can go, and if you're particularly interested in only women's health, you could conceivably spend almost the entire day only talking about issues related to health in a very broad sense. But you can go to a women's health track and you'll hear first discussion of aging and elder care, which is a huge issue of interest to women, really of all ages, because even those of us that aren't yet to the aging are probably taking care of someone who is. And then after that, in that track, there's going to be a domestic violence and child abuse session. There's also a session there on women's wellness, how to take care of ourselves, how well we're doing, how well we're not doing. If you're interested in leadership, you can come and you can hear a panel about the Oklahoma Women's Almanac, Trends and Statistics, and I'd like to talk about that a little bit later, what exactly the Oklahoma Women's Almanac is, and the history of women in Oklahoma. You can hear a panel on positioning women for power, how to get those resources for change. We'll have the governor's appointment secretary, we'll have Susan Savage, who's now Secretary of State, formerly Mayor of Tulsa, done both of those things. We'll have Kaylin Free, who started Indians List on that one. We'll have forgive me.
You'll have several.
We'll have Cindy Simon Rosenthal, who is at OU and talks about and puts into action the idea of women running for office. And that's a sample. I can go through each one of these panels and we'll have people like that.
Well, tell us a little bit more about the Almanac.
All right. The Oklahoma Women's Almanac is sponsored by the Oklahoma, happen to have a copy here.
Well, hold it up right below you.
Sponsored by the Oklahoma Commission on the Status of Women and the OSU Foundation. Printed by the archives at the Women's Archives at the Oklahoma State University. And what this is, it's got everything you needed to know about Oklahoma women in it. It starts with essays on the history of Oklahoma women, statistics about Oklahoma women. It talks a little bit about the commission, the women in the Oklahoma Women's Hall of Fame, again, a commission project. Also notable Oklahoma women. There's hundreds of them. There's just a fraction are in that book. And it ends, among other things, with more statistics and girls' state sports statistics. If you have a daughter or a close friend or a relative who's been in a state sport and has come out and has got a statistic, she's in that book, and her name's in that book. This was printed late last year. The celebratory kickoff was this January. They, I believe, sold out the first printing and are working on the second. And
right.
Summit participants can order a copy of that Women's Almanac in advance to be delivered at the Summit, or they can order a copy of the Women's Almanac at the Summit for later delivery. The artwork in front of it, I would just point out, is an original painting by Dana Tiger, a Creek Cherokee artist, called We Ride Again, women riding out towards, I prefer to believe, the future. And the artist has very graciously, along with the owner of the painting, allowed both the Almanac and the Summit to use that in all our promotional materials.
Well, Patricia, you must be pretty proud of Lou and everything she's putting on here as a
Well,
member of the commission.
I'm terribly proud of Lou. First of all, I'm just delighted to be able to welcome her as a commissioner, which has just happened recently. Yes. She's just recently, I think last week, been appointed by the Senate, and so welcome Lou. But I can assure you that the Summit this time and the Summit last time would not have come off like it did without Lou. I mean, she dots all of her I's and crosses all of her T's, and it's a wonderful event, and it just would not happen like it does without Lou.
How about some of the details? Can you give us a 30-second wrap-up on everything somebody needs to know if they want to attend? You've sold them, now tell them what to do.
They need to call the Oklahoma Status of the Commission office at 522-6897, and we can get them a registration form. If that registration form were in by the 20th, we could guarantee them lunch. As it is, they can come and we may be able to get them a lunch.
Okay.
They need to be there on the day by 8:30. We're going to start our registration at 8.
Fourth floor rotunda.
Fourth floor rotunda of the State Capitol building. We'll start out in the House chamber. We'll hear from the governor there. We'll hear our first plenary session there. We'll go all over the Capitol the rest of the day. We'll eat lunch in the rotunda areas, and we'll wind up back in the State chamber, in the House chamber for our last plenary session, which is another treat. Women in leadership, very extraordinary women in there. And that's really all they need to do.
Okay, what day?
What day? April 28th. Okay. Friday, April 28th.
Next Friday
and
at the State Capitol.
At the State Capitol. And you know, if worst comes to worst, just show up. We'll find a way to get you there.
All right. Hey, thank you both for what you're doing for the state of Oklahoma and for the summit that's coming up this next week. And I hope a lot of our viewers are able to come up. There's the phone number on the screen for those who would like more information on this summit, or to be able to let them know you're coming because you want to have lunch with Lou and Patty. Kent and I'll be back with the final word when we get back.
Way to go.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
Hello? Anybody home?
Hi.
Digital Max. Welcome to the neighborhood. Hello, kid. Whoa. I haven't seen a digital tangle like that since... Yeah. You need Cox Connections. With one connection, you get the whole digital enchilada. Kind of like this.
Wow.
What are you waiting for?
Get one connection to all your digital services from Cox.
I think I pulled something.
Your friend in the digital age.
The Cox Channel. More sports. More fans. More cheerleaders. More fun. Nobody does more local sports, and nobody does it better.
Welcome back to The Verdict, wrapping up our show on the Women's Council, which is coming up this week, Women's Summit.
Women's Summit. It should be an exciting event. I know it'll be well attended, and I want to get a copy of that Women's Almanac. I bet that would be fun to have and look through, and I'm sure there's a lot of interesting information. Thanks to Lou Kohlman and Patty Presley for spending some time with us on that. Next week, we're going to be talking to Dean Andy Coates at the University of Oklahoma College of Law on a show called What a Difference a Decade Makes. He's been dean down there now for 10 years, a lot of changes at the law school, and he'll be here to tell us about that.
Great. Just wrapping up this show, the phone number and it was on the screen a few minutes ago. TheVerdict.tv is how you can contact us on the internet and give us an idea for a show you'd like to see in the upcoming weeks or months. And I guess just wrapping up today's show, the three issues that they seem to be working on consistently, that's the health of women, which they're always trying to better, the high level of incarceration, which we know has been indicative of Oklahoma, and we don't know indicative of what, but it's something that has been branded upon us for over a decade now. And I think they're trying to increase the level of leadership among women, not only in politics, but in business circles and other areas as well. We wish them well.
Well, we do. From 500 to 700 women attending, hearing these great speakers, there's something that's going to develop from that.
Kent and I'll be back next week with another show. You're watching The Verdict.
The preceding program was produced by the Production Services Group at Cox Communications, exclusively for the Cox Channel.